I wanted to kind of highlight this about Summer's situation. She doesn't practice a whole lot of clinical dentistry. So you are a person that has how many practices?
2.
You have 2 practices. You had 3. Well, you've had 3 transactions. You merged one into a bigger practice. You don't practice a whole lot of clinical dentistry, so you make a very, very nice living off of your black belt status, meaning your EBITDA. The profitability of your practices actually drive the majority of your personal take-home income, which is where I think most of the people should be looking to get here. Remember that story about my 2 back surgeries, and I didn't find myself in a place where my practices would support me without me being the provider. And I don't want to overly generalize, but for the practices that I've bumped into and the dentists that I've spoken to, and I've spoken to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dentists, a very, 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 very small percentage of them could actually step out of the clinical role and still be able to afford themselves a really nice lifestyle. You've been able to do that. Tell us a little bit about how you've been able to do that.
Well, and I always say, I didn't seek out to create it. It kind of, after 4 surgeries, it got thrust upon me, and I really just didn't have a choice. It was truly, like, legitimately sink or swim.
You couldn't physically practice clinical dentistry anymore.
Correct. Like, I was like wheelchair, crutches, like all that good stuff. And so when forced with, it's either sell everything or figure out how to make this work. When you get backed into a corner, it's sometimes the coolest thing that can happen, as I've said before.
Which is interesting because you knew this was about to happen, so you purchased a dental assisting school from me looking for some sort of passive income revenue generating potential thing right before your surgery. Then you had surgery, and then you figured out that plus getting super profitable with your practices was the ticket.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting.
And, truly having no choice but to step outside of it. I mean, everybody says, don't work in the business, work on the business. But I mean, it legitimately, I look at my overhead, and I think Jay can attest that my overhead dropped by like 20% just because I seriously could just focus on it. When you're constantly doing clinical dentistry, it's so hard to find white space to even think outside the box at all, and like, I got real comfortable, like going back to that overhead question, I got so comfortable with like pitting reps against each other.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't find it uncomfortable at all to make them uncomfortable.